Welcome back. You're watching Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. Director General of Nigeria's Consumer Protection Council, Babatunde Irukera, is our guest tonight. And we're about to delve into a recent experience with dealers in expired rice products in Akwa Ibom and their collaborators in government. You were on a mission recently in Akwa Ibom where you apprehended some Nigerians, maybe I should just say criminals, involved in bagging fake and expired rice for consumers. Now, you wrote on your experience based on that, and on the back of that you said, for the first time, I publicly admit, I am afraid, I truly am. What's your fear?
Well, my fear is that we live in a society where fundamentally people are reckless. And that's not necessarily a governance failure, but there's just simple recklessness. I mean, if we cannot as individuals literally look at something and say that this is dangerous for someone else to consume, and on account of that, I'm not going to put that in the market, then it means that we have merchants of debt who we're living with. And that is scary. And there's really so much you can do. And I give an example in that, saying that, look, I can avoid the rice by looking to the specific location where I can buy the right rice. Because of my role, in any case, I can know where to buy rice. But when I visit friends? What about when I give rice out as gifts? What about when I go to a restaurant to eat? And so it is really scary. And to imagine that, how much can you do to protect yourself? You've got family and friends all over the place. And so my real fear was just that we focus a lot on what we think are the key issues, but there are so many subliminal issues that are nearly as bad and sometimes even worse that we're not addressing.
On the back of that particular experience, you talked about your relationship or the collaboration you had to have with a lot of other government agencies, which we will come to shortly. But you said, I really don't know if we've killed this ones. I mean, you talked about preying on a business or a business that preys on survivability. You say you don't know if you've killed that business, but you surely dealt them a blow. What do you think that Nigerians, and that will be the people and the government, need to do to kill businesses like that?
The one thing that needs to happen, obviously, is the kind of thing we did. We need to do a whole lot more of that. And beyond that, we need a very strong consequence management system. We need to prosecute people like this. And when they're prosecuted, if they are convicted, they need to serve a term of imprisonment.
36 hours after that operation, you had a lot of pressure coming in from even the strangest quarters, some of them within government circles. And that for you was extremely shocking. Do you think that, first of all, have you escalated that issue, to the appropriate authorities, to the authorities who should do something about the pressure that you faced?
Oh, yeah, yes, I have. And as a matter of fact, even today I had, including yesterday evening, I had very important meetings with respect to holding public officers who did not fully understand their role accountable for their conduct in the specific role they played in this process.
Is it a question of just not understanding their roles or choosing to use their roles for selfish ends?
Well, I suppose I have a long history as a defense lawyer, so I'm very slow to conclude that there was compromise or there was a inanimate objective, because I know that with one of the people who participated in this, at least what they conveyed to me in my conversation with the person seemed to be a lack of understanding of that person's role. Now, is that excusable? No, it's not. But does it necessarily suggest potential compromise? I do not know.
You talked about battling a judicial process that was an onslaught of the criminals against us, the protectors. You talked about how it would seem that the inmates were now in charge of the asylum. How did that feel for you, especially considering your background as a lawyer?
I couldn't have possibly prepared for that at all. Because, like you rightly said, my background is as a lawyer, and on many occasions I've been on the other side. And so what we did with this operation was to carefully plan it. We looked at the law, and we operated strictly by the rules. And so for someone, for instance, on a Saturday morning, for the police to say, well, we've got a problem. We understand that there's an injunction coming. First, what injunction is going to come on a Saturday morning? What court order would come on a Saturday morning. For you to have a lawyer who is a public servant, works for the federal government, in that role as a lawyer, to come out and say, you know what, I must restrain or restrict the operations of another agency of the government. So it just seems like a skewed process. It just seems like the legal process that should have been the defense or the protection that we would have as agents of government seem to work against us. And I just imagine how much worse it would have been for my colleagues who were part of this operation if I wasn't part of the operation or if I wasn't making those calls myself. And so it just does seem like the inmates are running the asylum.
So have you had any conversation with, say, the Attorney General, the Inspector General of Police, the Customs, who seem to be doing some work in trying to stop foreign rice from coming in, how much more fake or expired rice from coming into the country? Have you had a conversation with the top brass?
I have had conversations with every single one of those people you've spoken about, save the Attorney General. And I was supposed to meet with him today. I'm looking forward to doing that tomorrow. And my conversations with every single one of these people has been very collaborative. And I've gotten the kind of cooperation that I got in the last hours of that from them. And they're working as hard as they can to make sure that the integrity of the investigation is secure, and then the legal process works the best way it should with respect to holding these people accountable.
I'll go to the beginning of your statement. You say that you're at the fork in the road. You don't know whether to be encouraged or discouraged, motivated or demotivated, inspired or retire, energized or tranquilized, activated or deactivated. Those were your words. I mean, that was how strongly you felt on the wake or in the wake of that particular operation. How do you feel now?
Well, I'm not deactivated. I am not tranquilized. I think there's a battle for the soul of a nation here. And if I think that I have anything to contribute to that battle, walking away from it is one soldier less in the front. And so I am still scared, but I realize that we don't even have the time to stop and think. That's a luxury. Because in reality, we can think the biggest problems are with the people in the National Assembly or those in the State House or in the cabinet when there's a meeting there. Well, maybe there are problems there, but there's far bigger problems, like I've discovered, even in a market in faraway Uyo. And until we can make sure that people do not exploit people, until we can make sure that people can look at something and say that even from just an appropriate standard standpoint, we cannot put this in the market. We cannot exploit people in this manner. Until we can ensure that that is the case for our nation, every person, every voice, and every effort counts.
You are trying to get your agents at the CPC to work and work as it ought to, because some of the people that were apprehended after they were interviewed said that, you know, they usually come around. It's not like as if they didn't know that we sold these products, but they were bribed and they left us alone. How important do you think it is to get people at the head who are motivated, and how do you think they will be stopped from being discouraged when they see, say, the attitude? I do not know what sort of staff you have, but sometimes, you know, you might be on your own drive and then you might just be getting another type of attitude from the people who work with you.
Well, the one thing I know is that if there was one employee of the Consumer Protection Council who has ever been compromised in this manner, or who fits the bill of that description by one of the people who was arrested, I not only would I make sure that person loses that job, I will ensure that person is prosecuted. And that's the only way. I mean, if the consequence for doing the wrong thing is to take away what you have earned from doing it, it's worth the risk. And so that for me is what I intend to do. And I'm hoping that other chief executives or other agencies realize that. And so the only way to build our institutions are two things, is to make sure that there are standards, there are processes, and the consequence for violating those standards and processes are apparent. And not only are they apparent, they are enforceable and they do become enforced.
Obatini Irukera, thank you for coming on Hard Copy.
Thank you.
Well, that's Hard Copy tonight. We thank you for always sending your mails and tweets. If you also want to send yours, Please do so using hard copy at channelstv.com or at CTV Hard Copy. Thank you for watching tonight. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.